Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. Well, the globe Earth believers and the pushers of scientism and heliocentrism seem to be getting quite desperate as they tout the final experiment as a way to once and for all prove that we live on a globe. But this is really just a psyop. It's a Hobson's choice that has been conjured up by creating a false dichotomy. Now, the idea is that a bunch of people go off to Antarctica in December and then they observe the sun, and the organizers of this final experiment, which is being fronted by a man called Will Duffy, who believes that we live on a globe, is that if we can see a sun circling above the observers from this base in Antarctica for 24 hours in December, this will apparently prove once and for all that we live on a globe. Now, even the name of this trip to Antarctica, which is being touted as the final experiment, is a big clue as to the psyop that's been created here to conjure up a Hobson's choice, where we have one model or the other based on the observation that can be seen in Antarctica. And so there's this illusion of choice when really there is no actual alternative. It creates a situation in which it's necessary to accept one of two equally objectionable alternatives. So it comes from this story of a livery stable owner in London called Thomas Hobson in the late 19th century. And he had this firm rule that customers had to take the horse nearest the stable door, or do with no horse at all. So that phrase, Hobson's choice, has come to mean that you have this illusion of free choice, but you don't actually have a choice at all. It's also being described as a free choice in which only one thing is actually offered. The term is often used to describe an illusion that multiple choices are available. The best known Hobson's choice is, I'll give you a choice, take it or leave it, wherein leaving it is strongly undesirable. And the Cambridge definition of Hobson's choice says that it's a situation in which it seems that you can choose between different things or actions, but there is really only one thing that you can take or do. So when you look at what the final experiment is touting, it's basically two sides, a false dichotomy of the globe Earth participants on one side and flat Earth participants on another side. Now you can see that for the flat Earth participants, the symbology being used here is the azimuthal projection on the North Pole, or centered on the North Pole, that ends up creating this ice ring where Antarctica should be going all around. So of course, if you then put forward this flat Earth model as the only one that is being put up in this debate or experiment, then of course it would seem impossible to have a 24-hour sun that goes around Antarctica just because it's been spread out and turned into a ring on this particular projection. And that's all the choice you're given. And of course, the end result, if a 24-hour sun is seen, is assumed to conclude without a shadow of a doubt that the Earth must be a globe. This is without any other kind of scientific verification or measurement of any actual curvature on the surface of the Earth, which we'll come to later. It is simply an interpretation of observations of what's happening in the sky. And that is, of course, how the globe Earth model was created in the first place. It's converted the celestial sphere that we see because of the way perspective works for the subjective observer, and turned it into this illusion of a globe Earth. So the premise there is that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica is only possible on a globe with the globe Earth model that's being presented, and is not possible on a flat Earth with the so-called flat Earth model or azimuthal projection map that is being put in place of anything else to represent the so-called flat Earth. Now, there are several false claims also being made along the way to set up this Hobson's choice and false dichotomy that would appear to have the globe Earth proponents win this contest that they've created in their own minds by themselves. Now, one of the claims is that there are many flat earthers that have apparently agreed that seeing a 24-hour sun in Antarctica would be enough proof that we live on a globe. Now, I don't know who has been asked this, and I don't know who has actually agreed to this, but I would say there are many, many of us that have certainly not ever suggested that looking at the sky is any kind of proof of being on, or the shape of the Earth, for that matter, whatever you assume it to be. So we've got this false dichotomy created with a Hobson's choice, and claims that people who oppose the globe or question the globe would admit defeat if a 24-hour sun was seen in Antarctica, based only on one particular map projection. And as you all know, if you've been looking into maps, you can make your azimuth anywhere you like on a map, and it will change the shape of everything else around it. Maps are just projections. They do not show us the physical properties of the land and the sea that we inhabit. Now, looking through the YouTube channel for the final experiment, Will Duffy is trying his best to dangle all these carrots in front of people, mainly to get flat earthers to go along and be part of this trip to Antarctica. Only a couple of so-called flat earthers have agreed to join so far. And of course, by agreeing to go along, they're also agreeing to the conditions that have been laid out here, which is that if you see a 24-hour sun, your flat Earth is debunked and the globe is proven once and for all. Now, it's turning out to be quite the psyop with these carrots being dangled, such as this video here with an offer of $50,000 to prove the Earth is flat. And of course, it all ties into the only option you have to prove that the Earth is flat is by not seeing a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. No other experiments are on the table. It's a push to get flat earthers to go along by dangling this $50,000 carrot in front of their faces and say that you could get the funding for your experiments, but those experiments must all be related to observing the sun. And what is also happening now is that we've got these celebrities of scientism that are now coincidentally going to Antarctica at the same time. So Will Duffy is promoting this trip as one in which you can be accompanied by the stars. For example, we've got Scott Kelly apparently wants to go to Antarctica. We've got Neil deGrasse Tyson here, who's apparently wanting to go to Antarctica because he really wants to prove the globe Earth once and for all with this 24-hour sun observation. He actually wants to shut up the flat earthers. That's apparently his reason for going there. We've also got William Shatner, the sci-fi celebrity that is also put up there as a proponent of all the space scientism and stuff. So these people, these celebrities will be there. So of course this is starting to look more and more like an event that will end up being well publicized, again on the premise that if everyone there observes a 24-hour sun, the flat earthers being represented by a few YouTubers are now having their flat earth debunked once and for all, simply by making this observation at a particular time of year. So all of this just shows that we're seeing another vain attempt to control the narrative. It's no different to the false dichotomies and Hobson's choices we are given with politics, where we're told to vote for one or the other party on the left or the right. And we know that actually it doesn't matter who you vote for or who gets in, they are still working for the same masters, and they are still in control of the official narrative, and they will tell you how it goes, rather than actually looking at changing the way people think. We are taught what to think, not how to think. And of course, if you are a truth seeker, you've already broken free of things like false dichotomies. You know that it's not black and white. There are many grey areas because you know how to think. You know that there are many other possible alternatives, and anyone that is giving you only one choice out of two alternatives is just trying to deceive you and win points with deception rather than any actual science. So what could we do instead of gallivanting off to Antarctica to see if there is curvature on the surface of the Earth? Well, it should be something that's quite easy to do and should be a repeatable experiment that anyone can do. Now, a lot of these globe Earth proponents probably own drones. Some of them might be pilots, but in all the past 7 to 10 years of demanding a measure of the curvature on the surface of the Earth, not one of these people has ever actually attempted to make a measurement. Now, you've got to keep in mind that the heliocentric model and the globe Earth wasn't realized or discovered because someone observed any curvature and then went out to measure it and see if curvature actually exists. No, that should be the prerequisite. If there's curvature, let's see if we can measure it. Let me just shout out a couple of people on YouTube who see through the deception that's being put up here by the final experiment PSYOP. Level Earth Observer has done a few videos recently dissecting the final experiment, so I'll put a link to his channel. He's got a good take on it and is exposing the operation for what it is, as well as Del from Beyond the Imaginary Curve. Just the other day he had a conversation with Will Duffy live, and Del was at least able to get across, hopefully, the point that Will shouldn't be lumping all so-called flat earthers into the same category as he has done on his website, claiming that all people questioning the globe believe that we live on a flat earth with an ice ring just because of an azimuthal projection map. So again, I'll put a link to that particular video in this description so you can go and watch that. And now let's just talk about how we could do some experiments to measure the curvature on the surface of the Earth using drones. Now, drone technology has come on leaps and bounds in the recent past, and they're packed with all kinds of instruments that help them navigate and tell the drone exactly where it is. It uses a combination of barometric pressure to know its altitude. It's got gyroscopes, accelerometers, and there are even ways that you can use infrared and other means to measure the distance between itself and the surface of the Earth. Of course, they're also equipped with cameras which can be calibrated to be level. And it turns out that when you do so, the horizon you see in front of you is also at your eye level. And these are the kinds of things that people will argue about endlessly. Instead of actually doing a proper measurement, they'll talk about observations and say that the horizon drops below eye level, but a drone owner can prove for themselves that the horizon is always at eye level in the center of the field of view when they calibrate the camera on a drone to actually be horizontal. If they do so, the horizon will appear at the center of the camera's field of view. But you could also use a drone to make a measurement. Now, if you just take the globe Earth maths, which is fixed to be 8 inches per mile squared of curvature, then you can just calculate the distance that you would need to travel to see a certain amount of curvature at the end of that distance. Now, the globe Earth believers have no way of getting out of what has been established as the dimensions of the globe Earth. And this is why they refuse to actually try and measure the surface, because they know that they won't get the results that are predicted. by this so-called scientific model. Instead, they'll do things like create assumptions that pointing at the sun is proof enough that we live on a globe. It's all because they have to avoid the fiction that doesn't equate to reality. So if you had a drone and you had a way to track where it was going and make it travel in a horizontal line or across the surface of the Earth, you wouldn't have to travel very far at all to actually detect some curvature, especially if it was across water. So let's put a distance into this calculator here using GeoGebra. I'll send a link to this web page, and if we put in 10 kilometers, we get a drop of curvature that is almost 8 meters there. All right, so you could even reduce this to about 5 kilometers, and you'd still get a drop of almost 2 meters, 1.96 meters of curvature over a distance of 5 kilometers. So this is what the globe Earth model predicts, but does it fit with reality? Surely there must be a way to measure it, especially given the technology that is available to us. And then we can have an experiment that anyone can do anywhere, and so it then becomes repeatable, proper science. If we use this curvature calculator and we do it in miles, we travel 10 miles across the surface, and we should see curvature amounting to almost 67 feet of drop over that distance. If we go down to 5 miles, then we get 16 feet of curvature. If that was kilometers, then it would be again almost 2 meters of curvature or drop at the end of that distance. Again, it's something that should be easily achievable. In fact, it's the first thing anyone should do if they are claiming to be following the science to prop up their belief in the globe. Just go out there and measure it. But as usual, we see the same old characters joining the Globe Earth team, thinking that they're going to win some kind of imaginary contest because they will see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And instead of actually going out and measuring the curvature that they expect to see on a globe Earth, they will just stick to this as their one and only proof, as they always have done. Even though some of these guys are pilots and some of these guys own drones, none of them is willing or able, possibly, to actually go out and create a proper experiment that would be the final experiment, a proper scientific measure of curvature across the surface of the Earth. And you don't have to go all the way to Antarctica, thousands of miles away, as a small, closely knit group. All you have to do is find a way to traverse 5 to 10 kilometers and see if you can detect or measure the curvature that you believe exists on your globe Earth. Thank you very much.